In this unit, I want to talk a little bit about water and about soil. So first, soil here. I'm going to show you a practical way of working with that principle in nature where if you think about a woodland, that how the soil builds is from things dropping from the trees and plants dying, and the soil getting its nutrients from above. In nature there is no digging, and so a really easy way, and in permaculture we want to make things as easy as possible, do as little work as possible and work with the way nature works. I'm going to show you a mini way of making a garden quite quickly, and we call that in this case a lasagna bed, if you like. So here's an example of how I've done this before. So here is some naturally growing vegetation, and we can just, instead of digging all this up and making a clear space to plant into, we can do it much quicker by putting some layers straight on top of the soil. So here the grass is growing already, and I'm going to show you a very small version of this. So creating a bed by taking cardboard, so large areas, but in this case a really small piece, and putting it straight on top of the grass, so just a small piece of cardboard, and then wanting to add some organic material just to build it up to create lots of fertility. So I've just got some clippings of things that I've mown here before and just put them straight on top, and then I'm going to get some compost to put on top. So my little break. I should have put that ready. Yeah. So what I've got here is some horse manure that has been composting. I've got it nearby. It's already well rotted down. So I'm going to just put a layer of compost right on top of all that vegetation. And quite thick, we want quite thick layers, and what the cardboard is doing is stopping anything that was growing there underneath from growing some more, and it will slowly die down and add some more organic material, and that will suppress the growth, and then these extra layers to add more organic material. And then I use a dibber to put a hole through so that I can plant directly into here, and the roots of the plant that I'm planting will go through, but not allowing anything that was growing underneath to come back out. I'm planting that directly into here above that hole so the roots can come through. Water it in, et voila, gardening done. So it's a really quick way of creating new gardens and adding a lot of fertility, and then I need to water this just to get it started. And here behind you can see some that I did before, so this is growing away very happily. And also on top here I've got a layer of hay just to suppress any weeds that might want to come up through into this compost as well, just to keep it from weed free. So mulching as a way of protecting it from weeds to grow, and in the same way as it rots down, adding more fertility, keeping the moisture in as well, so you don't need to do so much watering. So mulch does many practical things in that way, just helping to build the soils and look after the plants. So there you go, mini lasagna garden. So here we're talking about water, and water is something that we're mostly water, 70% water. So water is something that we really need to live, and all of life needs to live, and it's a precious resource. There's not so much drinking water available on the planet that is directly accessible to us. So how we look after our water and where it comes from is a really important part of permaculture design. So in terms of being here and having a home, we can think about how we might catch the water that's falling here anyway. And instead of it running away, we've got some rainwater harvesting set up here. So this main roof area, it's got guttering plumbed in, but straight from as it's catching the water, it goes into these big tanks. And so this particular cabin, it runs on rainwater. It's plumbed to the tap. So most of the water that I use is from this drinking water. And then I add some drinking water that I bring in separately, because this particular place is not set up yet for that. So it's thinking about what is the area of roof and where can you catch from, and what is set up already in terms of drainage and plumbing, guttering, so that you can plumb into that any storage and make use of that. And then at the other end, also we want to think about where the dirty water goes to. So there are, from the toilets, we'll talk about later, can go into composting, but also water from washing up and washing and showering can be treated. It's called grey water. It's a little bit dirty, but not too contaminated. So thinking about systems that will clean that enough to make use of it again in the garden. So in permaculture, we want to think about the water that comes onto the area that we have some control over, and making as much use of it as possible within our plot, and then making sure that it leaves our area again in a cleaned way, ideally even better than it came. So I want to show you also part of the cleaning of water. If you think of how that happens in nature, water falls on the earth and then it filters through the soil and through the rocks and ends up in water holding reservoirs, aquifers, from which we pump it again for drinking water. So how we've done that here is from these big water tanks, the water runs through this drum here that has a sand filter in it. So all the water goes through all these small particles of sand, and there will be some algae and other biology that lives there that helps clean and takes any of the nutrients that might have dropped on the roof with it, and it goes back through and into the second tank, which is then clean and is plumbed into the cabin. So thinking about the simplest technologies that are available to us that are closest to nature, to keep it simple for repair and to not include lots of technology and lots of chemicals that is not needed.